Just before we begin, I spoke to the family ahead of time about me being masked or not masked outdoors and what have you. I moved back a little bit and I took a test a half hour ago and I'm clean. So I'm going to stay unmasked for this part. If anyone's uncomfortable, just step a little farther back and I'll try to keep my distance as well. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, dayan ha'amet. We praise you, Adonai, our God, creator of the universe, judge of truth. Adonai ma adam v'teda ehu bananosh v'achashvehu. Adam lehevel damai yamav ketzel over. Baboker yatzis v'chalaf le'erev yimolel v'yavesh teshev anosh ad dekav v'tomer shuvu b'nei Adam. O God, what are we that you take knowledge of us, or that you make account of us? We are like a fleeting breath, our days are as a shadow. In the morning we flourish and grow up, in the evening we are cut down and wither. You turn us to contrition and declare, return to me. Oh, that we were wise and would consider our final end. The glory of humanity resides with us, the living in eternal memory. We endure forever in the heritage we leave behind. Esainai el ha'harim me'ayin yavo ezri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz. I will lift up my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? The source of my help is Adonai, creator of heaven and earth. God will not let you falter. Your guardian will not slumber. Surely the garden of Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. God is your protector, the shelter at your right hand. The sun shall not smite you by day, nor the moon by night. Adonai will protect you from all harm and preserve your soul, guarding your going and your coming, now and forevermore. Death has taken our beloved Liz. Our friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence there is lamentation, in their tears there is loneliness. Lost in their sorrow, may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, O God, be with them. For Liz's love that united in life and which death cannot sever. For her companionship that was shared along life's path and which continues through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of her heart and mind that brought joy and happiness and are now but precious remembrances. For all these and more, we give our thanks to God. The words of the 23rd Psalm. Adonai hoi lo eksar, mino deshi arbitzeni al meimanu achaleni. Nafshi yeshovev yancheni b'maglei tzedek lama'an shemo. Gam ki elech begeit salamavet lo ira ra ki ata imadi. Shivtecha mishan techahema yanachamuni. Ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged sovarai dishanta v'shemen roshi kosi v'vaya. Ach tov v'chesed yerdefuni kol yamei chayai v'shavti v'beit Adonai la'orech yamim. If you care to join in. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. For everything there is a season, a time for every experience under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted. A time to tear down and a time to build up. A time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to grieve, and a time to dance. a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek, a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. In his sorrow, Job cried out, Adonai natan, Adonai lekach, Yehi Shem Adonai mevorach. God has given, God has taken away, blessed be God's name. An ancient people, we are well acquainted with grief and with the valley of shadows. Death and sorrow are not strangers to us. Yet the centuries have taught us that a good name endures beyond the grave and that there is strength in faith. With Job we say, Adonai natan, God you have given. Gave us a loved one who will not be forgotten. For all that was good and enduring in Liz's life, we offer the deepest thanks of our hearts. Adonai lekach, God, you have taken away. We pray for the strength to turn our broken hearts into an altar of trust, before which we acknowledge your sovereignty and love as we now say, Yehi Shem Adonai mevorach, blessed be God's name, now and forever. Elon, you mentioned to me last night that whenever you or anyone told your grandmother something, she usually responded, "That's so nice." She meant it. Whatever you had to say to her either probably was nice or in her mind deserved a polite response. Liz would say, "That's so nice," as you all know, because she was so nice. Liz was the most good-natured person on earth. She was beyond considerate, putting everyone else first, making sure that everyone else was happy. As all the family quipped, she was the type of person that if she were to serve chicken at dinner and someone would have to eat the neck, she would have insisted on being the one to do so and would have done so willingly, without the slightest hint of malice or martyrdom, knowing that there was enough chicken for everyone else to be sated. She was the type of person who, when living in her beloved Canton, next door, Elaine's family moved into the duplex. Liz got there quickly with sandwiches she had made for the new occupants, wanting to make sure they all had something to eat. Liz was a great listener and was so sweet. She was a pleasure to be around. Just ask anyone at Gidwitz or the Friend Center, staff and residents alike. Liz was sunshine, as her maiden name indicated. She was simply the best. That's not to say that she was a pushover. She most certainly was not. She was easygoing yet assertive when she needed to be. If a family member were sick and she needed information from a doctor about the treatment, Liz would push hard and strong until she got what she needed to help those whom she loved. And though she was nice and kind and pleasant as pleasant could be, as you all know, if you hurt any of her loved ones in any way, an insult, a mean comment, or worse, she never forgot it. You immediately landed on her you-know-what list, and you landed there for good. Now, mind you might not necessarily know you were on her you-know-what list. Liz was never mean or outwardly dismissive. She largely kept her opinions about others to herself, though her family could often tell. But once you were there, you were there. That's because Liz was a protector, and a fierce one at that. She learned that from her parents and taught it to her daughters. An only child, Liz was born in Vienna. Her family fled to Milwaukee when she was 4 years old and moved to Chicago when she was 6. Though Liz remembered that something wasn't right during their tumultuous time around leaving Europe, her parents were successful in shielding her from the trauma. They kept her near them at all times, taking her out with them wherever she went, rather than getting someone to watch her while they went out. Liz never felt suffocated by this. Rather, she always felt secure, protected, sheltered, and loved. Her parents allowed her to thrive, and she in turn did the same for her family. So Liz was there to protect and provide. She made sure that Hank was well taken care of, and that you, Tamara, and Miriam were safe. Maybe at times too much so. Maybe you didn't need to stay at home from school every time you had a cold. Maybe every cough didn't need to be strep throats, nor every bush need to be a hiding place for a potential predator. But Liz cared and worried about all of you. You were her life. She wanted you to be okay, and she would do what she could to make sure that you were. She wanted you to be happy and healthy, and work to create an environment and a path for you to be able to do so. Liz really loved her parents. She embodied the best of both of them, and she cared deeply about Hank. They met through Jewish youth group at Temple Ezra, and though he was 6 years older than she, they had so many common interests: their background, their love of opera and of folk music, and it didn't hurt that Hank played guitar, their keen, cultured intellect. They had so many common interests that they quickly took to one another and married when Liz was just 18 years old. Theirs was a good, solid marriage. They cared deeply for one another, took care of one another, and enjoyed being with one another. Liz was as content going with Henry on his many events as she was going out with their many friends, as she was staying at home with him watching Gone with the Wind, as she was staying home alone with a good, sweeping, epic novel. Hank died 20 years ago. They're now together once again, thank God. Tamara and Miriam, the love, respect, and caring you showed your mother reflects what she showed you. Tamara, she loved having your family and you nearby, and even though she seemed to always take Steve's side in any argument he might have had with you, you always knew you meant the world to her. Miriam, your mother worried sick about you every time she heard about trouble in Israel, but loved Keturah, the community, the friends, the life, and of course the family you built for yourself over there. And she looked forward to the chance to see you, any chance she should get. To the both of you, your success in life was her success. She simply loved you both. Ilan, Noam, Eitan, Aviv, Eden, and by extension, Raz, Rona, and Omer. Your grandmother slash great-grandmother treasured you. Yes, she worried about all of you too. So much so, as I just heard, when you had sleepovers, she covered the corners of her end table so you wouldn't hurt your head. And she loved each of you for the individuals that you are. Liz wanted to share with you all the things with which she grew up. And most importantly, she wanted you to do you, as long as you were good people who treated others with respect. Liz looked forward to engaging with you all and being with you all, to being subversive by serving you white bread instead of wheat bread, Ilan, or to being able to make waffles with whipped cream and strawberries for your children, Miriam, when they visited from Israel. Eitan, you helped take such good care of her over these most recent years. You are all her lasting legacy in this world. Liz was extremely bright and well-read. She had definite opinions and was passionate about politics and ideas. A good JFK Democrat, she cared deeply about civil rights and about Israel. Intellectual conversation at Hank's and her dinner table was the norm, You had to know your stuff, as you, Steve, found out pretty quickly. Sarcasm and quick wit are marks of deep thinking. Liz had them both. The whole family does. Liz really knew her stuff. Having married so young, Liz waited until her children were older to go to college. She had received a degree in her 40s and went on to have a successful career as a teacher of home economics at Iroquois Jewish Junior High School in Des Plaines. I love that when I asked what Liz loved most about teaching, those of you in the front row all said without missing a beat, the summers. Liz was a good teacher. She was probably pretty easy on the students. They really liked her, though, and her colleagues adored her. She was professional and smart and good at what she did. Liz had many good friends that she kept throughout her life. She was very social. You were all so important to her, and she loved spending time with all of you. But Liz liked her alone time as well. Time when, as much as she loved caring for all of you, she didn't have to care for anyone at all. It's appropriate that this is the weather we're having for her. She's the only person that I've ever been told loved rainy, gloomy days. Because they were days when she could sleep in. She loved to sleep in. When she could read a bit, watch a good movie with animals in it. She loved animals probably more than people, especially Tamara, your golden husky, Amber, that she adopted as her own. She could then nap a little and then read a little more. Liz loved days when she could go paint or go to the Art Institute to see her favorite Albright painting, The Door, with its "that which I should have done, I did not do" embedded within it, a message that always resonated with her. She loved days when she could go to the opera or listen to it on the weekly broadcast, when she could hear folk music, or when she could cook. She was such a wonderful cook. Scents of Liz's chicken paprikash, her goulash, her chocolate silk pie wafted through our conversation last night. Liz loved days when she could play bridge or stay at home and record entire seasons of Everyone Loves Raymond, Shirley Temple movies, or any number of musicals to bring to the family in Israel and watch with them. Tamara, I laughed when you said medicine was one of your mother's hobbies. Liz played a great armchair doctor, every symptom bringing out one tome or another to determine a cause. And she was so proud to be Jewish. And finally, lest I forget, she always looked great in brown. Liz helped teach Elon how to drive. She told you, Elon, to always drive 5 miles an hour below the steep speed limit. It's how she drove, and as you said, Steve, it's how she lived her life. Carefully, consistently, wisely, and with a measured presence. Liz was always there, going on her way, as nice can be. And that's how we will remember her, how we will carry her. Liz, you were a protector and a provider, and you cared passionately about the people in your life and the ideas which you held so dear. You were considerate and kind and such a pleasure to be with and to know. You gave the world your goodness, and we are all the better for it. You were so loved and will be so sorely missed. Sleep well, Liz. You deserve only the best. You are sunshine. Amen. We take a moment quietly to remember. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember her. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember her. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember her. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember her. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember her. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember her. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember her. So long as we live, she too shall live, for she is now a part of us, as we are here to remember her. For those of you who are able, I ask that you please rise at this time. If it is a hardship, please do not. Shochem bamromim hamse menucha nechona tachat kenfei hashechina im kedoshim utuharim kezahara kiyamaziri et nishmat Chana bat Chaim shalcha leolama bal hanachamim yasireha beseter knefav leolamim bitzror hachayim et nishmata Adonai hu nachlata v'tanuach b'shalom al mishkava v'nomar amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to our beloved Liz, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. The words of Kaddish Yatom, Mourner's Kaddish. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah. V'yalma divrach erutei v'yamlik malchutei. V'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. V'agalau v'zman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lomei maya. Yit barach v'yishtabach v'yit pa'ar v'yit roman v'yit naseh. V'yit hadar v'yit alev v'yit halal shemei dekudsha b'richu. Va'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Gamiran v'yalma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Huya aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. You may be seated. It's time for the most difficult, or probably the most important part of a Jewish funeral. We Jews believe that from the earth we came, into the earth we return. So the greatest mitzvah, or commandment, we can fulfill is to help Liz return from where she came. We do so by placing some earth upon the casket. So in a moment after it's lowered, I'm going to ask the immediate family first to place some earth upon the casket, and then anybody else who would like to. want to, there's 2 shovels so you can line up on either side.
No. Yeah.
So, really quickly, that concludes our service here. The family will be sitting Shiva tonight beginning at 5 p.m. We'll have a Shiva Minyan at 6:30. It will be outdoors in a tent, still masked. Yes, I'm looking at the family to confirm that. Please, vaccinated and masked. And again, they'll be sitting Shiva on Saturday evening at 6:30. Yes, 6:30? 6:30 to 9:30. Thank you all for being here.